this is very interesting because remember when we covered this? There's an African reporter. So on Jen Psaki, who was Joe Biden's press secretary, on her last day, he made a big stink. He's an African reporter, and he was making a big stink that you never call on us. Why don't you ever call on people from Africa? And she just ignored him and told him to shut up. Everybody was telling him to shut up, and he wouldn't shut up. So guess what happened? So then not PayPal, but Stripe. It's another payment system. They took his Stripe account away, so then he couldn't make money at his newspaper. His newspaper was all run on Stripe. So Stripe, again, all these, whether it's Patreon, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Stripe, they're all owned by a billionaire somewhere, and they can screw you if you go against the establishment, which is what they did to him. So now it happened again. So a day after the United States announced its new strategy towards sub-Saharan Africa, and with a new commander assuming command of AFRICOM today, African reporters say they have to beg for questions from Biden's press secretary, which is so that's what I said. They didn't fix the problem. They didn't fix the problem of them not calling on reporters from Africa or addressing African concerns. They didn't fix that problem. They put an African American in charge of it. She's not going to fix it either, but she's there, so you can't wag your finger at them, but we can. So look at all the boxes she checks. She's minority, she's a woman, she's gay, and she's an immigrant. And it feels so
Haiti.
Pardon me?
From Haiti.
From Haiti, a nation that Biden is treating like a colonial stooge.
That's right. And so, but it makes me feel much better when someone who checks all those boxes lies to us. So, or ignores the concerns of Africans. So let's watch it happen again. Here it is.
About what happened yesterday.
Afterwards, between the Justice Department and President Biden.
One question for Africa, Karine.
I'm going to come back, guys.
Thank you. Why do we always have to beg for questions? Africans deserve questions as well, Karine. Come on.
What is the latest on
Can I have a question, Karine?
Okay, I'll take a couple more questions. Okay, I'm gonna take guys. Go ahead. Okay. Give me a second.
We have been asking for questions every time, and even when you give questions to Simon, it's because he forced. We don't need to force for question. We also deserve to have a question.
I will get.
Against African reporters.
On Afghanistan, Sheikh Saleh said.
So now, if Trump's administration treated African reporters like that, it would be a scandal. But do you see how they how they do the identity politics? So now it's not a scandal because we have a black woman doing that to Africans. And she's doing it. She's fucking ignoring them and she's sick of them. And why don't you shut the fuck up? While
Russia.
And blame Russia.
Yeah.
Hang on, I think there's more to this.
Last year that there was going to be an extensive top to bottom review of the drone, how that went.
Can you start again because someone was yelling over you?
Jake Sullivan said last year.
Could you start again because someone was yelling from Africa?
Some African was trying to talk over you.
Wow.
Blinken said that the United States and African nations can't achieve any of our shared goals if we don't work together as equal partners. Apparently not in the press room, though. Not in the White House press room. So I think this is actually good that they appointed her as the press secretary because what people forget is that the press secretary's job is to be a professional liar. And everybody pretended like that just got invented during the Trump administration, that the press secretary and the politicians lied. That's what they do. If they're talking, they're lying. And she's a liar, just like Jen Psaki was a liar, just like Joe Biden's a liar. They're all liars.
They think so little of the African reporters. They're like, I'm not even going to bother lying to you.
Yeah,
I'm lying to them because they're more polite.
Well, you're a reporter. You're a real journalist, unlike us here. Tell us, Max, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know about me being how me being a real journalist would relate to this because I'd never be allowed in that room by the Biden White House, which considers one of the greatest journalists in the world to be a real criminal, or in Biden's words, a digital terrorist, and that's Julian Assange. I remember one of the biggest stooges in the international media, one of the biggest tools, Jorge Ramos, voice of the voice of the Latin American right wing from the corporate-owned Univision, stood up in a Trump press conference and demanded to question Trump out of turn. Instead of just waiting in line, he wasn't even, as far as I know, registered, and he was removed. And that became this gigantic blow up in the Beltway press, and it was portrayed as racist and xenophobic by Trump to not call on Jorge Ramos. But here you have this clip that went viral thanks to Causachan News. You can see its logo in the upper right-hand corner. That is actually a news agency affiliated with Evo Morales and the Cocoa Growers Association in Bolivia. So that tells you how much, and it's a really important site, but that tells you how much attention this exchange got in the United States. The Beltway press was completely comfortable with this condescending display, which was a perfectly distilled the White House's attitude to Africa. They're really putting they're really putting their condescension on display. And I guarantee you that all across Africa, this was watched, particularly in places like the Horn of Africa, where the U.S. is trying to impose its will. An interesting little, I don't know if it's an interesting factoid, which is that Ilhan Omar barely won re-election. She's known as a progressive. I, considered her of the squad one of the better ones on foreign policy. She'd taken some decent stands against sanctions, but on the Horn of Africa, especially in Somalia, she's been pushing the agenda actually of her family clan, which has upset a lot of people in her district.
Well, they booed her, right?
They booed her for 10 minutes straight in her own district.
For a number of reasons, including that they think she's trying to get famous in Washington, that she's too devoted to woke politics, which are kind of just considered weird, and more importantly, that crime is rising, inequality is rising, and she's just not there. And a lesser-known centrist ran against her who lives in the district, said he'll stay in the district, and he came pretty close to defeating her. But the point I wanted to make here about Africa is that Ilhan Omar actually has achieved some influence in the Democratic-controlled Congress on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. She's the vice chair of the subcommittee that deals with Africa, next to Karen Bass, who's going to probably be the next mayor of LA. And she has used that position to kneecap the former Somali president, who was actually pretty popular. He was defeated by a member of Ilhan Omar's clan, and Ilhan Omar's first husband. I just saw on his Facebook page, he announced that he is going to be a lead advisor to the new president of Somalia. So this is really like meddlesome behavior that is of a part with the imperial attitude the United States has to the whole of Africa. And it's coming from someone who is marketed to us as one of the biggest progressives.
Yeah, we're finding out that when push comes to shove, the squad are not progressives, that they're actually willing members of the establishment. And go ahead. A
friend of mine made the comparison to me today that they're kind of like boy bands, like boy band members. How they just kind of bring you into culture and sell you on a phony image and just leave you with this hollow, empty veneer. But they, at the end of the day, you've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on concerts and bought a bunch of merchandise. And they're completely vapid, empty salespeople.
But look at all the wins they've racked up with using their leverage.
Well, he pushed Biden left so hard he fell off his bike.
Look at all the wins Nina Turner's racking up. She can't even. I don't know. Could she even get elected dog catcher?
She couldn't even make an anti-black accusation on a YouTuber stick. So. I think she went to the Anna Kasparian school of launching false accusations in a desperate attempt that everybody sees through. But she nailed it. Everybody saw through it. Hey, we're coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Detroit, Los Angeles, Spokane, Tacoma, Denver. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our tickets for all our live shows. See you there.